Hello, everyone, and welcome to Sedha Exchange webinar series. I'm Guriq Sedha, and today I'm joined by Glen Young, a data and analytics executive who has spent over 15 years helping organizations like Transgrid, Chartered Accountants Australia and New Zealand, AMP, and AICD turn their data into a true enterprise asset. At Sedha, we believe CIOs need to lead with authenticity, objectivity, and empathy. In today's session, from data chaos to AI confidence, building governance that scales, we will explore how governance and AI can work hand in hand to deliver real business value. Welcome, Glenn.
Hi, Guriq. How you going?
I'm good, thank you. Nice to have you here today.
Thanks for having me.
Awesome. Glenn, you have led enterprise data transformations at organizations like Transgrid and Chartered Accountants, ANZ, where governance maturity improved dramatically. In one case, by over 200%. When you first walk into businesses that feel overwhelmed by data chaos, what's your starting point for bringing order and trust?
Yeah, first of all, thanks for inviting me here today, Guriq, on this webinar. It's a great topic of discussion and one that I see all too often. When I first walk into an organization and everyone's feeling data chaos, the most important thing is to avoid overwhelming people with frameworks or big change programs right away. My first job is to listen, to get a sense of what's really driving that feeling of chaos. Usually it's things like, I can't trust these reports, or we're all working on different numbers, or there's no single version of the truth. It's frustration. And sometimes it's anxiety because people know they're making decisions on shaky ground. So I start by getting a couple of quick wins on the board. I'll find one or two business processes or outcomes that really matter. Maybe it's the monthly board report. Maybe it's the regulatory deadline. Maybe it's just getting sales and marketing to agree on customer numbers. I focus there first because when you solve a pain point that everyone feels, they get it immediately. At that point, I'll introduce some simple structure, clarifying whose job it is to own certain data, setting up a few basic quality standards, putting in checks so we know that data's right. I'm not bringing some huge governance bureaucracy. It's more about creating a bit of order so people feel like things are under control. What's incredible is that when people see the data starting to make sense, when reports match, when the numbers add up, the trust builds really quickly. Then we can start talking about scaling things up, bringing in more formal frameworks or technology if we need it. That's really been my approach at places like Transgrid and Chartered Accountants. We didn't tackle everything at once, but by being practical, staying close to what the business really needed, and showing progress early, we saw governance maturity jump by over 200% in some cases. So for me, it's always about empathy first, focus second, and results that people can actually see, because that's what creates real momentum.
Excellent. Yeah, no, I think you touched on really good points there. I think like and integrating the data culture, is a critical part of enabling the organization, because otherwise sometimes in organizations they have loads of data, and it may be structured well, but if people are not sort of integrated from a process perspective, then that data doesn't get leveraged properly. So fantastic. That brings me to my next question. Now, we can't have a webinar if we don't bring an AI into the equation, right? So AI is the headline today, but without strong governance, it can easily create more risk than value. Based on your experience, how do you embed governance in a way that actually accelerates rather than slows down the AI adoption in the organization?
Yeah, that's such a great question, Guriq, because I see this all the time. Everyone's excited about AI's potential, but the fear is that governance will just add red tape or slow things down. In reality, if governance is done right, it actually helps AI projects move faster and safer. My approach is to treat governance as an enabler, not a gatekeeper. So the first thing is to get governance out of the boardroom and into the conversation right from the start. For example, as soon as an AI use case is identified, say a customer churn model or automation in finance, I bring the data, business, and governance folks together. We talk openly about the intended outcome, the risks, and the data being used. That way, everyone understands up front what needs to be protected, like privacy, bias, or regulatory rules, where we have a bit more flexibility. I
Absolutely.
make governance practical, not a mountain of paperwork, but with clear guardrails on what data can we use? How's the model making decisions? Who's accountable if something goes wrong? We set up lightweight controls and document decisions as we go. So governance keeps pace with the project instead of it becoming a roadblock at the end. In my experience, this gives the team confidence to innovate because they then know the boundaries and aren't worried about stepping on landmines. It also builds trust with stakeholders and regulators because you can show your work if anyone asks, how did you make that AI decision? A good example is at Chartered Accountants and Transgrid, where we embedded data governance into AI projects from day one. That meant the data was trusted, the team knew which risks to look out for, and when it was time to launch, we weren't backtracking to fix problems. We could move forward knowing we'd done the right thing. So for me, governance shouldn't be an afterthought or a bottleneck. When you make it transparent, collaborative, and business focused, it actually clears the path for faster, safer AI adoption, and most importantly, adds a lot more value.
Absolutely. And I think you made a really good point around guardrails. I think like when we have very little governance or too much governance, I think, both of those kind of restrict the agility in the organization. So, setting it right in the context of the organization, I think that's definitely, science as well as an art. And good leaders, I think, make it happen in a balanced manner. Thank you. My next question is around, that you have implemented both advanced analytics and real AI applications from Microsoft Copilot to IoT, enabled AI for vegetation management as well. What lessons have you learned about choosing AI opportunities that are worth pursuing versus those are just a hype? We know there are lots of hype use cases out there, and getting that prioritization in it, and first identification and then prioritization, I think is the key for the organizations.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. And that's another fantastic question because the AI landscape is full of shiny new objects. Everyone wants a piece of it, but not every use case delivers real value. After working on everything from deploying Microsoft Copilot and knowledge work to AI-powered IoT for things like vegetation management, I've learned a few key lessons on telling the substance from hype. So the first thing is I always start with the business problem. Does this AI opportunity solve something that genuinely matters to the organization or its customers? If it doesn't move the needle on cost, risk, or customer experience, it's usually more about buzz than impact. For instance, at Transgrid, it was one thing to say, "Oh, let's put AI everywhere," but the real value came from predicting and preventing vegetation outages, which really lowered the risk and improved service reliability. Secondly, I look at data readiness. Great AI depends on good, accessible data. If the data is a mess, no one believes it. The AI project will struggle no matter how advanced the tech is. So make sure the foundations are there before chasing the latest algorithm. Thirdly, I'm always cautious about going into solution first thinking. Just because there's a new tool like Copilot or a flashy machine learning model, it doesn't mean it fits the business need. I always ask, what questions will this change, or whose life will it make easier? The best AI projects are the ones where teams say, "Oh, I can't imagine going back," because it removes pain, not just adds complexity. Finally, I make space for small tests. It's okay to try AI on a limited scale, prove the value, and then scale up if it works. That way we learn fast, celebrate wins, and avoid spending the big hype and the money that fizzles out. So to sum up, I'm looking for real pain points, clean and available data, genuine user buy-in, and a clear line of sight to impact, not just excitement about the technology. If you have those ingredients, the AI project is usually worth pursuing. If you don't, it's probably best to wait or focus efforts somewhere else.
I think, no, I think that's a very good point that you mentioned, Glenn. I was talking to another partner the other day, and together when we have been called into many situations to help on AI projects, very quickly it was identified that the data sources are not, kind of in a healthy shape, as you said, and so that becomes a first priority to say, let's fix the data before we jump on to the AI, and that's definitely a very, very valid point. That brings me to my final question. So, kind of, looking ahead, if a CIO wants to build an AI-ready data ecosystem by, let's say, 2030 or even before that, what one piece of advice would you give them about, balancing governance, technology, and people?
Yeah, there's many pieces of advice here, Guriq, but if I had to just give one piece of advice to a CIO aiming at an AI-ready data ecosystem by 2030, it would be treat governance, tech, and people as a single integrated system, not as separate work streams. In all my experience, the organizations that truly unlock value from AI are the ones that bolt on governance. That don't bolt on governance as an afterthought or treat tech as the sole solution. The big unlock comes when you create shared ownership where business, IT, and governance leaders come together with a common purpose. For example, when you're rolling out new AI capabilities, don't just ask, what's the tech stack or are we compliant? But also ask who really understands the data and who's accountable for the outcomes. That means training people not just on platforms and algorithms, but also on why data quality and ethical safeguards matter. It means governance isn't something you police, but a set of guardrails co-designed with the business so innovations happen safely. What I've seen, whether at large enterprises or more nimble SMEs, is that when people feel they have a stake in both the data and the results, the pace of innovation actually accelerates. AI adoption it no longer feels risky because there's shared trust and upskilling alongside the tech. So my advice is build your system with connected teams, shared responsibility, and governance that's practical, visible, and supportive. If you get that right, the technology becomes an accelerator, not a barrier, and you're ready for whatever AI brings by 2030.
Awesome, wonderful. Thank you, Glenn. Again, huge thank you for sharing your insights on, how governance and AI can transform, the way organizations use data. I think what stands out is, your ability to combine structure with the innovation, as you just mentioned, ensuring compliance along the way, but also enabling new capabilities like AI and advanced analytics. For our audience of CIOs, IT leaders, and those aspiring to those roles, I hope today's session has provided both practical ideas and inspiration. At Sedha, we're passionate about helping leaders move from hype to lasting value of authenticity, objectivity, and empathy. Thank you all for joining us today, and we look forward to welcoming you to our next Sedha Exchange conversation. Thank you.